been just over 14 months since beavers came back to Cheshire, and they've completely transformed the site. The watercourse is almost unrecognisable, and we're starting to see the benefits that beavers can bring to Cheshire. So they've put some dams in, and you can now see that the water, it flows in different directions. It filters across the ground, and you start to see dams start to appear and the trees taken down, which start to let light into the ground. So you start to see beavers doing their natural behaviour. The main dam, it's close to about 35 metres, and it is extending each week. It's about over a foot deep, and you start to see water held back right across the site. The main lodge, it starts off as quite a small sort of mound, and it starts off as a burrow with the top starting to collapse, and they've added to that with kind of woody material which has grown through the summer, and all of a sudden we've started to see multiple holes kind of appear between the ditch and the pond, so there's lots of access points for that. So the lodges are constructed with mainly kind of woody material that they hollow out from the inside, but then what they do is they put lots of vegetation on top and mud, so that in the summer plants start to kind of grow and shade out the lodge to keep it nice and cool. And you can see these trails around the edge of the lodge that are full of footprints, and that's the trails that they're using to drag mud from the bottom of the pond up onto the top. The beavers started really small trees, things even like an inch, and it was quite, for about the first 6 months of the project, if you didn't know beavers were here, you wouldn't really know at all. But they've gone for much bigger trees. Now they're starting to move on to things like willow and some of the smaller oaks, and they're getting to over 30 centimetres in diameter. But once they fell these trees, they start to take off all the limbs, they strip all the bark, they use every single piece, and what you end up with is kind of the inner wood, which it's not really palatable, and that's what gets moved into the lodges and the dams. Every piece of the tree is used. We've not really had any issues with the fence, but they have sat on one of the corners, had a little nibble of some of the fence posts, what they can reach. And I think this is there's some ponds kind of surrounding the site, and they can smell them, so they're spending a bit of time kind of smelling those ponds and having a little nibble through the mesh at what they can get. But no damage really, no significant damage. We're concerned about the water flowing into the downstream protected site, which is Hatchmere Nature Reserve. We've not noticed any difference yet, but it's early days. The first dam only appeared about 2 months ago, so we've got a long way to go yet. So the lodge is actually on the release pond, just on the edge, and it seems to become quite a focal point. On the first day of release, they had a good play and they were kind of met in that corner, and that seems to be where they've established the lodge as well. You can see kind of big food caches there at the moment, kind of twigs and logs kind of floating in the water. These are so that they can leave the lodge, grab a stick and go straight back to bed when it's really cold out. In the summer we'll see them kind of early evening, and it's a bit of a wake up, so they'll come out and they'll have a bit of a nibble near to the lodge around the pond, and then they start to spread out around the site as it starts to go a bit darker and a bit more safe. But usually around about 7 PM they'll start to kind of venture out, and very occasionally we'll see them early morning as well before they've tucked up for the day. We're starting to see a lot more wildlife on the site. Wherever the logs have kind of fallen across the stream, we're starting to see foxes and squirrels starting to move across. We've got resident polecat, which seems to share the lodge at certain times. It's definitely hanging around the lodge. The fish can now spread from the pond and into the ditch as the water's a lot deeper. So kingfisher have turned up on site, and we're hoping the kingfisher may become more of a regular resident, and there is potential for the kingfisher to nest on site too. Our hopes are that we'll start to see baby beavers appear. It is mating season around now, kind of really the depths of winter, so probably July, kind of midsummer, we'll potentially see some kits appear. Bringing beavers back to Cheshire has been a huge success for Cheshire Wildlife Trust, and we're really looking forward to where the future will go.